Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Samantha Johnson, and I am the Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement at the University of Colorado Boulder's Leeds School of Business. Leeds is a top business school offering undergraduate, MBA, MS, and PhD programs and has an alumni network of over 41,000 strong living and working around the world. We're excited to have Kendra Prospero presenting on 4 steps to getting the promotion you want. A few housekeeping items before we begin. First, if you have any questions now or during the presentation that you would like to ask, please send those questions through your chat interface. I will monitor questions as they are submitted and they will be answered throughout the presentation. As a reminder, for optimum audio quality, we do have everyone on mute except for myself and our speaker. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please notify us through the chat interface and one of our support specialists will touch base. Lastly, a link to access the webinar recording will be sent to all registrants later today, along with a survey link. Now, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Kendra Prospero. Kendra is a dynamic, caring, and driven speaker who provides hope and is also very knowledgeable about her topic because she is the CEO and founder of Turning the Corner, one of the only businesses in the country with a mission to end suffering in the workplace. As a professional member of the National Speakers Association, Kendra is a sought-out industry speaker who has delivered hundreds of inspirational keynotes, webinars, workshops, and panel discussions to organizations such as Google and TEDx. She helps companies become profitable with building engaged teams and helps individuals find work that they love. Welcome, Kendra, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here. So where I want to begin is I want to just share a minute of a little bit of my background relative to this topic. So if you can just imagine with me for a minute, I'm 23 years old and I had just graduated from college, CSU, I'm sorry, with a degree in computer information systems. Now, I graduated in 1998, which at that time was a phenomenal time to graduate with a technical degree. So I was the president of my class. I spoke at my college graduation, and I also graduated with honors in a computer information systems program. And needless to say, I ended up with 13 job offers. Now, it was an interesting time because some of those job offers were just like blanket offers. I happened to know COBOL, which was a language that was really needed in the days of Y2K, which is why there were a lot of offers for some of those companies. And then additionally, it was the .com boom. Matter of fact, I had some colleagues of mine, people that had graduated in years prior to me, who had gone to work for startups in Silicon Valley that had IPO'd, and they were like overnight millionaires. And so it was such an exciting time. Well, being me and being who I am, I looked at my offer set and I said, I'm going to pick a good company here. And so I picked IBM, Big Blue, which in those days, where it was such a stodgy old company that you still were required to wear a suit to work in those early days. And not only did I pick the stodgiest company on the list, but then I picked probably the most boring division of IBM, which was the printing systems division. And I did it because I loved the team. I loved my manager. I loved the people that I was going to work with. And then all luck had it that, 2 years later, it actually very much worked to my benefit because, .com boom, bust, Y2K ended up not being that big of a deal. I mean, I probably wouldn't have had a job if I hadn't kind of, gone that path. But when I arrived on my first day at IBM, I was the only woman and I was the youngest by 20 years. So here's a picture from me in those days. I haven't aged a day, right? And so I walk in and this team of men said, is this our new admin? And I really had to fight my way to kind of keep top of mind. And so within about maybe my first 3 weeks, very aggressive of me, I went to my manager and I said, what does it take to get a promotion around here? Well, he really was an amazing manager and probably the best manager that I've ever had. And he looked at me with a glint in his eyes and he said, well, there's a little bit of a path to it, but we'll get you there. I'll teach you and I'll walk you through it. And that then began the journey of a 12-year career at IBM that was phenomenal, where I learned the most amazing things, had the most incredible experiences, all because of the way he set me up. Now, I will tell you, I don't recommend that you do what I do. And matter of fact, as a manager now, like, it's not pleasant when someone comes in and sort of demands that you give them a promotion. So absolutely don't do that. And I'll show you why here in a couple of minutes. But and not to mention that just is no common sense, which when you're young, that's kind of what happens. But that worked out really well for me because I had such an amazing manager. However, in 2011, after working there all those years, it was time for me to leave. I'd kind of definitely tapped out where I thought I could go in my career there. And so I actively got on the job hunt. I started looking for jobs. I had my resume rewritten. I reached out to recruiters and I applied for jobs online, and I didn't get anything. Nothing came my way. And it was so discouraging. And so here I was, what seemed to be a fairly talented individual, and I wasn't finding any work. And so I rallied my troops and I brought my friends with me, and I brought a really good friend. I bought her lunch and I said, what do you think I should do? And she said, I don't know. I don't know. I would tell you to go talk to you. You actually give the best career advice around. And I said, I do. And she said, yeah, you helped me get a $40,000 a year raise last year. Yeah, you should maybe start a business about this. And so she planted a seed in my brain of something I'd never thought of before. I had heard over the years that, as I'd coached my team members and as I'd mentored people, and I did love that part of my job, even though it wasn't really my day job. And I did love that part. And I'd heard over the years, like, oh, you're so good at this. You should be an HR, or you should be a recruiter. And so I was like, didn't really know what it meant. But when she said that to me, a good friend, it really opened up my eyes. And I realized that maybe I should think about it. So I started researching, and I realized that there was this huge hole in the market, and that recruiters weren't calling me back because they're really not incentivized to reach out to individuals and help individuals on their job hunt, even though oftentimes they're really the experts in this, in the market of finding a job. And then additionally, the gal that I'd hired to help me rewrite my resume, she's very well-meaning, but she actually hadn't hired somebody in her entire life. So she didn't really know what was happening on the other side of the table. And so I realized with this hole that there was an opportunity, and I wanted to go fix it. So in 2011, I quit my job at IBM and I became an entrepreneur. My name is Kendra Prospero, and I am the CEO and founder of Turning the Corner. It's our mission to help make sure that everybody loves their job. Now, with that, we have such a unique business model. We're one of the only companies in the country that work with individuals and help them on their job hunt. And we also work with companies to help make sure that they're doing all the right things so that people love their job. We work to help with hiring, we help with culture and engagement work, we help mentor employees and build top talent programs so that people are thriving. But when they are time for them to transition, we also help them on their job hunt, because we're truly that expert that knows both sides of the table. And we've been in business now for almost 8 years, and I have this phenomenal team that works with me. This is actually just half of my team. The other half is either just recently joined since this picture was taken, or are actually scattered around the country. But we work every day now with people who are on a journey like yours of wanting to be promoted, seeing that they have some great gift and genius to give this world, but they're not sure exactly how to communicate that to their boss or to continue to grow in their organizations. And so what I want to share with you today is kind of what I see as some of the pitfalls and some of the steps that I think lead to not only you getting promoted, but will also lead to you being a lot happier in your job when you know and you have a little bit more of that direction. So before we really dive into the contents, because I am going to walk you through these 4 steps on how to do that, I really want to take a minute and just know you a little bit better. And so if you don't mind, we're going to throw a poll up here in a minute, and I'm going to ask you, how soon do you think you will be promoted? And the options on this poll are to that you're ready for a promotion now, you think it's time, or potentially it's maybe a year or so out, like it doesn't have to be specific to that, or maybe even beyond that, it's going to be, you're not even sure when that next promotion is, but you just feel it in your heart. You feel like it's time. So I'm going to turn it to Samantha for just a minute and let her pull this poll up. And then if you guys can just click and tell me which one of these things you are. Samantha, are you able to get that to work?
I am. Yes. Thank you, Kendra. Great. So, as she mentioned, how soon do you think you're going to be promoted? We have those three options here. It looks like we've got about 50% of folks who have responded. Okay, great. And you all are quick. So, Kendra, the results are, let me throw these back up for everyone. So 31% of folks joining us are ready for a promotion now. Same for those who feel it's about a year or so away. And then 38% are not sure when their next promotion might be. So I will go
Perfect.
ahead and hand it back over to you.
Awesome. That's great. Okay, so it's about a third, a third, a third. Okay. Well, that's good because you'll all get something out of this presentation then for sure. So here is the very first thing that you need to think about is you've got to start, and this is step number one, you've got to start with the end in mind. And this is kind of challenging when we're not together because I'm not able to just interact with you and sort of help you think through what that end might actually be. But let me give you an analogy that helps you understand why this is so important. So, so a little bit more about me. So I'm a Colorado native. I'm actually a third generation Colorado native. My grandma was born in La Junta in South Colorado. My dad was born in Greeley, and I was born in Colorado Springs. It's been in Colorado my whole life, which means that I don't hike, I don't ski, I don't own a tent or a sleeping bag. Like I don't do anything that most people do in Colorado. I totally take it for granted. But if I said that I wanted to become a mountaineer, I said that's my goal, I want to become a mountaineer. Those of you on the phone probably are a little more advanced than me, given that I don't do anything. And so your first question would probably be like, well, what kind of mountaineer do you want to be, right? Do you want to climb Chautauqua in Boulder? Because that's pretty easy, and there's a restaurant at the base, so that might suit you as a newbie really well. Or you might say, do you want to climb Pikes Peak, right? Or do you want to meet at the base of Flatiron #1? That is a thing, right? I think that's a thing. But seriously, I've actually never done that hike. I should probably do that. But you would want to know, like, what kind of a mountaineer? Or do you want to go to climb Mount Everest? Like, it changes everything about the way you are guided and the way your manager guides you and the people you surround yourself by when you don't have a clear idea of what that is. Because you can't just have like a mountain goal of just, I want to get promoted. That's not enough for those of us that want to help you and those of us that want to assist you in this to figure out what you want. You've got to be a little bit more clear on what it is exactly you want to do. And so what I want to do with you for a minute is I want to kind of take you to a place to help you think through what this might be. Because even though sometimes it's a little daunting and it might require a little bit more of a conversation than just these few minutes we're going to have together, sometimes you actually do know it in your heart. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a minute, kind of calm down, close your eyes. I'm going to talk you through this. I know this is a little bit weird, but you're alone and actually I'm alone too, so we can kind of be weird together here. So, all right. So I want you to do this. I want you to imagine yourself 10 years from now. 10 years from now. For some of you, I know that means you're about to turn 40 maybe. For some of you, that might be that you're close to retiring. So you're 10 years down the road and you've just had this major milestone, like a 40th birthday party or a retirement party of some sort. And you're now sitting on your porch and you're reflecting back on the wondrous life that you have designed for yourself so far. And you're thinking about this experience that you just had yesterday, and you're just again marveling at the thing that you have created. Maybe you have children, or you've bought a house, or maybe you have this incredibly stable job that has given you freedom to travel, or maybe you're now passing on a business. Whatever that might be, try to imagine yourself in a really high level, like what do you notice about that experience? That experience can tell us so much about what you need to do next and what you really want next. And so I want you to also think about these things. I want you to think about when you look back on your life and what do you want to see and what do you feel about work specifically? What did it provide for you and your family? And what does life look like now that you've hit this milestone, whether you're 40 or whether you're 65 or whatever it might be? What does a typical month now look like when you think about this future? And what would you have regretted not having done at this point in your life? Because all of those things lead to these clues for us. Maybe you're going to say something like, well, I've left behind a business, or I am traveling the world, or potentially you're saying that you've made a difference. That was the thing that got me out of bed is was I realized when I was 19 years old that I wanted to make a big difference. I mean, like a big difference. I want to be known as somebody who has helped a lot of people. And knowing that that was something that I wanted so badly, I never could get that at IBM ever. I mean, I could make a difference here or there in someone's life, but not like I am now. I mean, right now, I get to roll out of bed every day and I know I'm going to get to help somebody. I mean, here we are together. There's, 30 or 40 of us. I don't know how many. And I get to now work with you today and help you. And that fuels my soul on a daily basis. But what else might it be? And maybe it's not such an altruistic goal, and that's absolutely fine as well. It does not have to be an altruistic goal. Maybe it's that you have a stable income that allows you to provide for your family, or has allowed you to provide for your family. And now in retirement, you're living on a golf course, looking out over a golf course. All of those are wonderful goals. But you need to know at least that at a minimum so that we know what kind of mountain to help you climb. Otherwise, it's just too hard. We might push you too hard, push you too far, or not push you enough. And that's why it's so important that you do step one. Figure out what the end is, or at least the next 10-year milestone. But then the next thing you need to do is you then need to assess your gap. And that's step number 2, is figure out, okay, where am I now? And what do I need to do now to really hit that goal in 10 years? What are the steps that I need to take? And there's a variety of different ways that this can happen for people. One is that potentially it's a stepping stone where you continue to kind of work your way up through series of stepping stones where you say, I learned about, for example, like maybe if you come in as an analyst, maybe you have a degree in finance or you have a degree in sort of statistics, you can go into a career as an analyst, then grow and have a stepping stone to become a business analyst, where now you learn a little bit more about how to interpret customer results and turn that into customer requirements. And then maybe from there, you grow into being actually in business intelligence or a data scientist. And those are kind of stepping stones, right? Where you just continue to get more and more span of control. Another option, though, is to think of it as almost a wheelhouse where you say, well, maybe you want to be a CEO. Well, the best CEOs are people that have experience in finance, marketing, sales, management, operations, HR, technology, and then also probably consulting or project management. Like the best CEOs I have seen have those 8 qualities. So everyone's a little bit different. So then you'd have kind of a smattering of jobs that you might want to do to kind of work your way up to that CEO role versus maybe the head of business intelligence for an organization. So you need to kind of think through what that 10-year plan is and then say, now what am I missing between now and then? If you look here at me, I mean, this was me actually about a week before I was supposed to be promoted. So here I am. I was told by the gal on my right that she was going to promote me and I was going to become an IBM executive. I had to knock one more project out of the park, and then she said it was basically a done deal. So, okay, great. So here we are celebrating the day that we knocked the project out of the park. I was in charge of this big event, and we did it. It was awesome. And she was so proud of me. She said, I'm so proud of you. I want to invite you to dinner with me, some of these other IBM executives, and our CEO, and it'll kind of seal the deal. Great, I was all in. So I show up, go to dinner, everything seems wonderful. And by the next week, I was demoted. I was stripped of my title. And I was moved from essentially an office into a cubicle. Dinner, I guess, didn't go very well. To this day, I don't know what I did. I definitely didn't do something obvious like get drunk and dance on the tables or something absurd like that. It was nothing like that. They just didn't like me, or they didn't think I really had the skills to be an IBM executive. And they derailed me, and I derailed myself. And so sometimes your path, your best path, isn't necessarily the thing that's going to end up happening for you. But if this hadn't happened to me, if I hadn't derailed my career here, I wouldn't be in front of you now. And so it did have its blessing in disguise. But I want to show you now how your manager thinks about you and give you a little bit of insight into how you are viewed probably by your manager. Because if I'd had this insight back in those days, I think a couple of different things would have happened to me. One is probably I wouldn't have gone so aggressively after the promotion. And two, I would have probably quickly seen that I really wasn't a fit for IBM. I kind of like to say things that people don't like to hear. Corporate America doesn't really like that very much. I learned that lesson the hard way. But here's how your manager looks at you. So when you think about yourself as starting as either a new employee or a new task of any sort, you are probably coming into that situation where your confidence is low, your ability is low, and this is when a good manager should probably be teaching you and like almost micromanaging you until you get your feet under you a little bit more. A good manager is going to say, hey, we don't expect you to know all this stuff. Just watch me do it, which is basically micromanaging, right? And then those of us that are pretty good are going to graduate really quickly out of that to where we don't really need to be micromanaged, but we still need to be trained. And we're going to know this because suddenly our confidence is going to go higher. This is good when your confidence is higher, but this is also bad when your ability is still low. And your manager is going to know this because they're going to see the bigger picture. They're going to see all the things that you don't know. And now your ego is out the door, and they're trying to rein you back in to say, no, no, you're great, but you still have all this other stuff you need to learn. So you've got to be open to that training. You've got to be open to that mentoring and not shut that down. Every time I meet someone who says, I want to get promoted, and then I get to know them deeper and they're really missing all these holes in their knowledge, it's very frustrating because I know that you don't have the knowledge, and your manager knows that you don't have the knowledge and experience, and that if they were to promote you, you would fail, which nobody wants to do that. And but when you get really egotistical about it or really aggressive about it, oftentimes that's what happens. And so realize that like you've got to do that deep assessment on, do I really know everything, or are there other things I still really need to understand before I'm ready for that promotion? This is a time where I know for me, I felt pretty emotional. Like I felt like, why don't they trust me? And why won't they give me that chance? I'm great. Why can't I have that? Or I would even feel if I could be very vulnerable with all of you strangers that I can't even see, which I hope is okay. I felt I almost felt jealous whenever I saw someone get promoted. Like, well, why did they pick me, right? Those were the feelings I had. But I was really at this place of being in a place where I still had so much more that I needed to know. And then I acutely remember this for me, and I now as a manager, I see this so often in my employees and my team, but they'll suddenly know that you've hit the next level, going to an intermediate employee, because your confidence is suddenly going to drop. You're suddenly going to go, oh, now I know what I don't know. Oh my gosh, there's so much I don't know. I'm absolutely not ready for the promotion. But at this point, if your manager's been doing a good job with you, they actually probably see that you have a good ability. They now see what you can do. And a good manager will say, well, let's talk about why you think you can't do that. Let's discuss that. If you had all the options in the world available to yourself, what would you do? And they'll probably coach you and give you more of that coaching to get you to a place where your confidence is higher, your ability is high, and now they can really, as a manager, trust you. They can believe in you. They can delegate to you. They can continue to see you in action. They are gonna, maybe if you hang on in that spot too long, not be willing to let you go. But that's a whole nother discussion of kind of managing up, right? But these are the things I want you to really recognize and do some deep self-assessment around. Like, where am I really at with the tasks that I perform and what my job requires me to do? And do I really know everything? Because if you don't, I'll tell you what, nobody likes to work for a jerk. Nobody likes to work with a jerk. Nobody. question to thousands and thousands of people in the presentations that I do all over the country. And I have yet to meet someone who's like, yeah, I love working for that guy that makes me feel really bad. Or I love working with that gal that I see in the hallway and I just sort of want to go like this and ignore her. So nobody really wants to work for a jerk. And so you need to really check in with what you know and make sure that you are ready for it. And additionally, the best thing you can do to really position yourself for a promotion is also make sure that you are serving your team, you are serving the people around you, and that you're not the one that's going off on people, in the hallways or in the meetings. And the best way to do this is work on your emotional intelligence. Now, EQ is a fairly well-known topic now. It's really gotten a whole new traction in the last couple of years because of EQ 2.0 or the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0. I actually have it, look, right here on my desk, dog-eared, like tons of sticky notes in it. And I love this book. I read about a book a week. Business book. I don't really read it so thoroughly I could do a book report on it because sometimes I have a glass of wine in me, but I really want to keep on what's going on in the market. So I read a lot of books, and this book changed my life. This book helped me see and how I can be a better leader, a better employee, a better wife, and we'll have to say my kids still kind of trigger me now. Sorry. But here's what you learn with emotional intelligence is the first thing is you learn, why did I just have that extreme emotion? Like, what was that about? And sometimes an extreme emotion is even a positive one. Why am I ecstatic about that thing that just happened? Or why am I really angry about it? Or why am I feeling really sad or jealous? Or what's going on there? Like, recognizing and naming the emotion is so powerful, because once you name it, now suddenly you could put a strategy in place for how to manage it. Because oftentimes our emotion, we can't control our emotion, but we can control the way we react to it. And we need to learn how to do that. No one's ever into a role if they don't think that you can handle your emotions at work. You've got to learn how to do this. And self-management often comes with little strategies of just being able to say, well, did they intend to do that to me? Or was that my perception? Did I just get triggered by something because I get triggered by that, but it didn't mean to do it? Like, for example, I'm somebody who's triggered by pedantic people who are really good at following rules very closely. I'm not really a rule breaker, but if a rule doesn't make sense to me, like, I'm not going to follow it. And so you can imagine me at the airport. It's a nightmare for me. Take your shoes off. Why? They're fine. Put your laptop in that thing. Wait, what? Take that belt off. Wait, what's going on? All these rules, right? So I'm terrible at the airport. I'm just a triggered mess. Angry, frustrated. Like, I've definitely learned the lesson of not yelling at the TSA agent. Common sense, right? But yes, but once I realized that the reason I was so triggered at the airport was because I don't like those rules that don't make any sense. Then I could say, well, what's my strategy for managing that? And then I'd say, well, gosh, I want everyone to love their jobs. I want people to feel good about the jobs that they're doing. These folks were just hired to do their job. Like, now I'm getting in the way, I'm causing them pain. That's not really my mission in life to do that. And so it forced me to really address, okay, when I'm in that setting, I'm going to listen to me being triggered, and then I'm going to say, okay, that's their deal. That's my deal, not their deal. And it has now caused me to not be so triggered at the airport. And it's awesome. And we have numerous other things that we get triggered by in our lives. And so someday I'll figure out why my 5-year-old sets me off and why I feel like I need to get into power struggles with him over what shoes he's going to wear. No idea why that one triggers me, but something about control. But then the next part about this, which is more powerful when you're in a work setting, is that then additionally you need to now watch for other people's emotions. Why are Tom and Sally going off on each other? What can I do to help make sure that they understand each other's side of the story? When you do this in a team setting or you do this in a work setting, people notice. They say, I know I can count on that guy to help me through tough times. This positions you so much more closely for a promotion. And when then you actually take the leadership role in that and helping people figure out how they can improve their relationships and be more healthy in a work environment, man, does that make a difference. So with those first 2 steps, I'm curious now, Samantha, if we could poll one more time. I kind of want to now ask once again, do you feel like you're really ready for that promotion? Do you feel like your manager has, you are all set and ready to go, and you really are you're really set up for that promotion? Is your EQ in a place where you are the kind of person that people want to work with? And it's okay, we don't know how you answered before, but tell me once again, do you think you really are ready? And is it about a year away, or do you think it's even further now with this information?
Awesome. Thanks, Kendra. And we've got that poll open, and it looks like about half of you have responded. So we'll leave it open for a few more seconds.
Thank
All
you,
right.
guys.
Yes, this is exciting. All right. So, Kendra, here are the results that are different from the first time we asked. So now 58% of those who've joined us feel that they are ready for a promotion now. 17% still feel like a promotion or feel like a promotion is about a year or so away. I shouldn't say still because, as you said, we don't know who answered what the first time. And then 25% are not sure when their next promotion might be. So I'll
Okay,
go ahead
great.
and hand it back over.
Okay, awesome. That's amazing. So, well, good. So that means that you guys really do feel like you're probably, some more of you feel like you're even more ready. And so that is awesome. So now let's then talk a little bit more about how you build the case. And I'm first going to say now, if you've realized you still have this gap, now let's actually talk about what do you do about the gap? So hang on with me for those of you that are ready. I'll go through this quick. For those of us, though, that still think you have a little bit of steps you need to take, let's talk through this. So the third step is, how now do you need to detail out your growth plan and what needs to happen now? Well, the honest truth is that I think the easiest way to do this is to surround yourself by people who are doing this work. I know this is not new, innovative advice. I'm sure you have heard this before, but it is so powerful to surround yourself by people who are already doing the thing you want to do. Get yourself a mentor. And in this relationship, here's how. I mentor a lot of people, and I have been mentored by a lot of people. I have 3 mentors right now, and here's what I know works in a mentoring relationship: is you need a goal. So your goal is to get promoted into a role like theirs. So you've got that already fairly well established. You don't just want a mentor that's like somebody you just hang out with. That's actually called a friend. That's different than a mentor. And so in this case, you really want this person where you're going to say, tell me how you did this and give me more about your background and what do you think your strengths are? What do you bring to the table? And what do you not bring to the table? Like, what do you think doesn't work for this particular job? And where have you seen other people successful in this role? And what are the hard parts or the easy parts of the job for you? And then what are your goals now long term? And where were you 10 years ago? Just getting to know them and having, kind of picking their brain on how they did it. And then asking them, of course, for what are the things that I need to do to potentially get more ready or to get ready for it. One thing that they may suggest or you may discover is you might need to up your education. Not always, but sometimes you do. Like you might need a certification. CU has incredible continuing education classes that will help. Some people I've seen get a weekend continuing education certification that's helped them get into the job that they want to. And then in addition, CU has just all these incredible programs that are helping bring the community into the university and leverage what you've got here and this incredible incredible alma mater that you have. And then additionally, you might need to do some graduate work. Not every promotion requires an MBA. I will definitely say that that's not required. I definitely would say, though, that if it's something that's really interesting to you and you really want to go far in your career, you do want to be a CEO, then I do suggest that you potentially get your MBA. It's certainly not going to hurt. But if you go back and you do something like graduate work, I want you to remember that there's 2 things that you get out of a graduate program. You get the degree and the knowledge, and you get the. So do not forget that your goal in that MBA program or whatever that postgraduate work is that you're going to do, your goal is to build out and round out this network you have, because so much happens inside corporations based on those relationships that you've gained in college. So if you're going to go back and do that, take advantage of those relationships. The other thing that your mentor might tell you, though, is they might tell you that you also need to be known by other people in the organization. If you work for a fairly large company, I'd say a company with more than 15 or 20 leaders, which actually isn't that large, but in Colorado, that's a big company. So I don't know where all of you are from, but if you work for somebody that has, 10 to 15 other managers inside the organization, you also need to be known by other managers. Rarely, if any, I can't think of any example of a company that I know where there isn't somebody else providing some input into a promotion. And so the more people, other managers know who you are, what you can do, see you in action, watch you managing your EQ and growing, and the mentors you bring yourself around, all that, then they're going to say, hey, I'm really bought into him. I think he would be really good because I've seen him do this project over here, and I think he could do this work we want him to do. So have other managers know you. You can't just be known in the vacuum of only your one manager. At IBM, I was kind of pigeonholed into this more technical architecture role, which I liked doing, but I also realized like I don't want to be in technology my whole life. I want to make a difference. And so I made a case for myself to move over into a marketing department and to get more onto the sales side. I could kind of see this path for how I could do it. So I went to my manager, the amazing manager that I started with, and I said, wouldn't I be great at this? Wasn't that enthusiastic, but it was like the overall message, right? And he came back and said, actually, I could see how you would do that. And so I ended up doing some special projects for this marketing department. They sent me to Europe to do some classes. Poor me, it was a really tough time. No, it was awesome. Such an amazing experience. One of those life transformational experiences. I also then got to do a bunch of presentations for the marketing team. I ended up helping with the trade show. So then I was in front of customers, and the next thing you know, I was promoted into this role in the marketing side. And then I wasn't having to do coding anymore. Yay! You guys have known me now for like, I don't know, 30 minutes or so. I bet you can't believe that I was a technical engineer, like that I was a software engineer. It's not really my personality. Got to own my strengths, right? So you want to be known by other managers, and then additionally, my gosh, does the world offer so many opportunities for you? So one of the things we do at Turning the Corner when we're putting learning development plans together for top talent programs inside companies is we oftentimes are going to recommend that somebody who wants at a pretty high level role serve on a board, on a nonprofit board. I did not do that at IBM. I do it now. I actually serve on 3 boards with Turning the Corner. And I can't believe the power of the experience. I not only am building up my network and letting these additional people that I would probably never cross paths with know who I am, but I'm getting to see, the difference between a balance sheet in a for-profit company versus a nonprofit company. It's amazing. I'm getting to now, add value as an entrepreneur to cash flow management and things that I never would have thought would have helped in serving the nonprofit board. So definitely consider getting on a nonprofit board, whether that's your HOA or it's a cause you care about, or it's your PTO even at your school. Like find something that you believe in. Matter of fact, absolutely make sure you believe in it, and then go and offer your time. So there's only a handful of boards that I've heard of that don't just take people onto them with an application process. And then also, especially here in Colorado, again, I don't know where all of you are, but get involved with the local chamber. The Boulder Chamber here in Colorado is unbelievable. I mean, they are the most amazing group of people. I didn't even know chambers could be like this. You want to talk about non-bureaucratic and organization. So if you want to build up your network and get to know more companies and all that, like definitely get involved with the activities at the local chamber or associations that have something to do with your current role, or conferences. Maybe consider writing an article for a trade-specific publication or present at a conference. I mean, there's so many different ways to do this to really help round out your experience and make yourself promotable. And then if worse comes to worse and you can't figure this out and you're struggling still, then absolutely invest in yourself and hire a career coach. We were working with somebody a couple weeks ago that was thinking about going back to school to get their PhD. And when they talked about it, they were like this, yeah, I think I'm going to go back and get my PhD. And we were like, why? You look miserable. We saved the guy like $50,000 that year alone by not going back and getting his PhD. We figured out a whole different path for him. So it might be expensive to hire a coach, but it can also save you a ton of money if you do it right. So those are all things that I suggest you do to really ready yourself. So for those of you that think you're a year out or you're not sure when, consider these steps to really help you get promoted. But now, for the majority of you that are really ready for that promotion, let's go to step 4, which is how to build your case. Now, there's 2 ways. You heard one way earlier, which is to go in and demand it. I don't recommend that. You can demand it, you can spew, you can be angry, you can threaten that you're going to leave this job if they don't promote you. And I promise you that's not going to help you. It's not going to build your case at all. People hate that. They really want you to approach them in a more dignified way. Managers are busy. Managers see something maybe you don't see. Managers are overwhelmed by other things. You have to build a case for it. And the best way to do this is to practice and really work at this. And where I really want you to think about is how you just in general have a more skillful or dignified conversation. And this is the formula for it, is you want to start with what is your desired outcome? Well, your desired outcome is you want them to believe enough in you that you are going to make a case for getting promoted. And then in this perfect situation, when you go into this conversation, how will it end? Well, a perfect situation would be that they say, you know what? You're already being considered. We are just waiting for you to give us the thumbs up. I mean, that would be perfect and extremely unlikely. But what might be the desired outcome here in the perfect situation is they say, oh, well, that's great. I'm so glad you told me. I've been thinking that you might be really good at that, but I really wasn't sure. And I've been so busy that I hadn't really thought of actually reaching out to you. So you want to just, think through what is that perfect situation, because sometimes when you really think about it, you actually can figure out different ways to word it so that it holds true in the conversation. But then the other thing you need to think through is what is going to maybe trigger you and what's going to trigger them, kind of coming back to EQ. Like if they come back and say, no, you're absolutely not ready, you're going to probably feel pretty bad about that. Or if they say, oh, well, maybe in a year, when you've heard that, of the last couple of years, you're going to feel pretty bad about that. So you really want to think through, like, what is probably going to happen and what's going to set me off, what might set them off, so that you can sort of preempt it with some strategies. You know what? I know you said that maybe in a year that I could get promoted, but actually you did mention that last year as well. And I understand if you think I'm not ready, but I would like to maybe understand what else you think I need to do, because I do think that, I'm getting to a place where this role is getting where I think I can just add more value. So here is a very wordy slide that you can use as a basis for a conversation. And I put it in here with all these words on the slide, mostly so that when you end up referencing back to this presentation, assuming that you do, you have this because you won't have me saying it. But basically, if you go into your boss and you say, hey, I feel like I've had a wonderful few years working as an analyst, and I know I'm respected by my peers, and that my work is really appreciated, and I really appreciate you, and I'm actually really ready for my next challenge, where I think I can take my skills and maybe apply them in a more of a management and kind of coaching role, help more people on the team, be better workers. And I realize that I haven't been a manager in the past, but I wanted to let you know some of the things that I'm doing to prepare myself to being this manager. I've got a couple mentors in my life. I went back and I got a certification in, management, or I took Turning the Corners management training class. Just kidding. Whatever it might be, right? But you're going to now build this case. And so then end it with, well, what do you think I'm missing before this promotion is possible? Okay, so these could be just, a basis for the words that you might use. Okay, so now I know I just told you guys a whole bunch of stuff, and it's probably a little bit overwhelming. So I also want to offer something to you. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for having me on your stage. I'm not totally done yet, but I do want to say this, that because you've had me on the stage, rarely do I not do something in kind back to you. And so if you text the word promotion to 720-627-6864, I will open up my calendar and 2 of my other team members' calendars to you, and we all work with people and help them on their path to getting promoted. And so we would love to sit down with you and chat with you and just help kind of lay out a little bit of a plan. And we'll do this for free for at least 15 to 30 minutes. And then if we both feel like you need more of our time, like you think you need more of our time and we think you'll benefit from more of our time, then we'll look at kind of a little bit more of a package that does cost money. But at this point, if you just feel like you need to have a conversation with one of us, absolutely, please text me here and we will do that. But now the very last thing I want to share with you is just a couple other tips that I know if you do are going to make it pretty hard for your boss not to promote you. And that is that your job is to make your boss's job easier. Okay? Not harder. You got to be a problem solver, not a problem maker. Um, Anytime someone comes to me with just a problem and they don't help think through and haven't thought through what the solution might be, it's very frustrating to me. I actually haven't really had that at Turning the Corner just because we just don't do that way here. Like, I think I'm a good manager and I think people understand all that stuff. So we don't have that too often here, but boy, did I have that at IBM and it was a pain. And then, like I mentioned earlier, please be drama free. Don't gossip and go and do the politics thing too much. I mean, some of us have to do some of it at work, but you know, when you're really somebody that people can't trust, like you're not setting yourself up for success in your career. And then also build your team up, build others around you, serve people. When you serve them, they remember, absolutely remember. So don't forget and lose sight of that. And that's who we are anyway in Colorado. The fact that you all came out of CU tells me that I'm sure you're already doing that, because that's just the nature of what it takes to be a good Coloradoan. And then the easiest way to get a promotion is to already be doing the job. So if you think you're going to get a promotion into something you've never done before, it's pretty unlikely. But if you go and do that job for a while as a worker bee, and then you get promoted into actually being the manager, that is the fastest path to getting there. And I think a lot of you probably already know that. So with that, I would love to just share with you briefly what we do at Turning the Corner, and then turn it back over to Samantha to see basically, if there's any questions. So just briefly, Turning the Corner again works both sides of the table, in that we work with companies to help put together these mentoring programs, help with coaching, help with management training and teaching managers how to be great managers. We do a lot of recruiting and hiring and building of high performance teams. And then on the flip side, we also work with individuals who are on a job hunt and need help with marketing themselves with their resume. Maybe you need help with career coaching, or need help with interviewing skills or networking skills. And so in your journey, if you feel like we would ever be of any assistance to you, we would love to support you and know you better. So with that, Samantha, let me turn it back over to you and see if we have any questions before we close this baby out.
Great. Thank you so much, Kendra, and thanks for all of this awesome information. We do have some questions, and I do want to remind everyone that if you have a question, you can submit that through the chat interface, and I'll get that over to Kendra. Kendra, you were just talking about how the easiest way to get a promotion is to already be doing the job. Can you elaborate a little bit more on boundaries to set while you're working in this role that you would be promoted into, so that next level up, or any timelines you suggest before, I suppose, like how long do you work in that role before you bring it up and say, okay, if we're going to continue this, let's talk about a promotion?
I think in a minimum 6 months to 9 months before you can really know the job, but honestly, maybe even as much as a year. I don't feel like I've ever seen someone really hit their stride until about a year into the role. And there's just so many things that come with the day-to-day, right? You need to know the stories and the players, the personalities, the customers, the actual, the product that's being sold by the company. What is the leader like? All those things, you're never going to learn that in, a 3-month period. It's going to take some time. And so I would say, 6 months at a minimum, but probably closer to a year.
Great, thank you. And so you had a great slide that talked about the different levels of of an employee and the management style. Let's see, sorry, let me reword this here. So how do you suggest navigating promotions with a manager who maybe doesn't have all of those management styles that come out during those employee phases, or who's not maybe as focused on their employees and thinking about their growth plans?
Yeah, so that is really challenging. And so definitely one thing is to force the conversation a little bit more. Make sure that they do know what you can do, and sit down and find ways, on some sort of frequency, either every other week or maybe once a month. And people say, I want to share with you all the things that I'm doing and what that means. And then you kind of have to be a little bit of a storyteller around why you are excited about the work. People always connect better with stories than they will with bullets. And so if you were to say, like, one of the things that I think I'm really good at, and I heard from and so on this team that this was really helpful for them, is I'm really good at presenting. And so I went in and I presented this thing to the marketing organization, and they really loved it. And so I know it's a little outside my job scope, but I wanted to just be able to at least share a little bit more on what we're doing in this, on our web development team. And so you're telling the story, but you're also communicating one of the things that you brought to the table. And then the other thing is this idea of being known by other managers. If your manager is not very good and is not, seeing you for what you bring to the table, then the other great way is to make sure other people in the organization do. And again, being a storyteller, not egotistically, but being able to say, like, yeah, I really love doing that. I actually do it for this nonprofit board that I'm serving on. I'm an MC for them, or I really enjoy fundraising, and so I, somebody who puts events on for my nonprofit. I'd love to go and do that for whatever organization. So it kind of just depends, but you got to tell that story and then tell it to multiple people is probably the easiest way. And then if your manager still is not bought into it, then that's when you find another job, honestly, because bad managers are the number one reason why people leave a job. And so unfortunately, it's too bad, because it's such an easy thing for organizations to fix, is bad managers, but you got to invest in that training to get them there. And so if they're not going to do that, then it's not worth it for them to have you, and for you to be continuing there and suffering there.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. And then another great question has come in. So you mentioned this earlier in your presentation about the why them and not me.
Yeah.
Do you have any more tips and tricks on how to navigate this when you're in an organization and seeing others be promoted around you?
So, yes and no. I mean, I think it's very specific to the personality of the individual. I do think it's a bit of speaking purely from my own perspective, I think it's a bit of a maturation process to realize that it's not always going to go the way you want it to go. I mean, life is just not fair always. And so I know that when I finally realized that I actually don't really have a lot of control over that always, it gave me a little bit more peace. But when you see it happening and you're actually getting passed by for promotions that you were qualified for, and it isn't just like a sort of a maturation thing, then I think you really need to have a heart-to-heart to say, I need to understand why this is happening and what do I need to be doing differently. And if you don't get an answer that is satisfying for you, then I would suggest and say that it's probably not the best fit for you as an organization. There are certainly, and I don't mean this in offensive ways, but there is sometimes a good old boys club or a good old girls club, right? Where you have to qualify in a different way that maybe you'll never qualify. And so sometimes those ones are just really hard to get promoted into. And that's okay. That's when you just need to really think about maybe moving on if it's just impenetrable, no matter how great you are. Or you need to do that deep dive around, am I really good at this? Maybe I don't think I'm as good at this as I think I am. And that's also just a sort of a soul-sucking moment that you have to kind of go through and have that really mindful reaction to it. I think, again, coming back around to my experience, is I wasn't the kindest person at IBM. I was known as someone who didn't suffer fools. And I mean, now I look back on that and I'm just almost embarrassed to tell you that. But because that just meant that I was cruel. I was mean. I was the mean girl in a way. And again, nobody wants to work with the jerk, and I was definitely like that. So when I finally realized like that wasn't serving me, and it was definitely not serving people by being that way, and then I went through the exercise of trying to understand why I was that way, it really helped me see, okay, that's probably why I derailed my career, because I wasn't very diplomatic and I wasn't very dignified in the way I said things. And now in the work I do, I have learned and worked really hard to still give dignified feedback. Like I can't take it out of me that I'm going to give you that feedback, but I make it in a way that doesn't make people cry and doesn't make people feel bad. And so I had to go through some deep growth there to really be ready for the next thing. And it's served me very well now, but it's going to be maybe a tough path for some people or a tough journey.
Sure. Yeah, no, thank you. That I think that that's great for all of us to think about, that the taking that next step in growth isn't always easy.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not. Struggle has taught me more than peace.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So this, I have one last question here for you. This individual is in that space of growth and learning, is learning to navigate vulnerability and transparency in the workplace, both with managers and bringing other individuals on their team to be promoters for them, as they're looking to grow. In the work that you've done, have you seen success in individuals being more vulnerable and transparent as opposed to holding their growth plan close to them and bringing people in as they feel is safe?
Yes. Vulnerability it's a fine line. There is a fine line between weak and vulnerable. And it is something that takes hours really of mindfulness to understand the balance between the two. But vulnerability and being able to say like, I'm not good at this, or I don't think I can do this work because I'm not wired for details, for example. And I think why I was a terrible project manager and programmer is because I don't really like mundane details at all, and I can't do them. I mean, I have like 400 unread emails because I just don't like having to go in there and look at email. And so I'm just not wired for it. I'm more wired for this sort of thing and being with people. And to be able to be open about that and share with that, it feels really scary because you're afraid they're going to say, well, this is what we hired you for. Then don't let the door hit you on the way out. And if they say that to you, then you say, okay, thank you for saving me from a really crappy career. And now you walk out and you go find your other thing. And I know that's a bit of a bold, dramatic action there, but being vulnerable, I think, is incredibly powerful. And there's some great resources I'd love to share with the listeners here. And that, Brene Brown, I mean, has been a real big champion for vulnerability at work. And I'm seeing a great transformation in leadership right now with where people are a little bit more vulnerable and definitely much more sharing and giving than what I've seen in the past. And then another one is Marcus Lemonois. He does The Profit, Profit. It's kind of like a competitor to Shark Tank. He's amazing, and he's also one that's a big proponent of vulnerability and using what your past and your experiences are as a way to make bigger and deeper human connections with people. And so yes, I definitely recommend you do it. And I will also say that there are some environments where it's going to be more challenging than others until we get out there and transform the world.
No, thank you. And thank you for those additional resources. Those are awesome for everyone to have. Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining us for today's presentation. And Kendra, thank you again for spending the time to share all of this wonderful knowledge that you have. I want to quickly remind everyone that to view upcoming webinars and request previous recordings, please visit our website at www.colorado.edu/business/webinars, and have a great rest of your day and go Buffs.
Yay!